Hello and welcome to Sim.bc, where right now it's about 15:23 in the afternoon. Yet again an afternoon recording. I know, I'm just feeling the happiness overwhelming me inside. It's like the best thing ever. Yet again them double digits up and down. Woo! And if you don't know what I'm talking about, well, just watch any of the videos from the last 7 months and you will understand what I'm saying. Unless you watch the ones from like yesterday and the day before that, because my days. I can't just help by enjoying it. Yet again, smug. I'm a bit smug, right? And well, the lighting solution is still working, and this just seemed to work, even though it was kind of a bit, what you would say, low on volume yesterday. So hopefully we're going to address that by talking a bit louder. Maybe that will help it. Maybe it was because I was a bit far away from the microphone. Maybe it was something like that. But I found when I was recording, like when I was editing it, like, I need to actually lower the volume of all the songs in the video because they actually overpower my own voice. That's not the point of this, right? That's not the idea of the videos, let's say. And yeah, yesterday was a bit of a mini celebration. I know that there was nothing direct to talk about, and I'm sorry if you just like tuned in and you were like 150 and you didn't even recognize it. That's not what I'm saying. I totally recognize that it was 150 videos. I'm so truly astonished and amazed that there's still views. Keep going in. I can't really understand why it is. No, just kidding. I mean, I like my own videos, but that other people are watching them too, that truly means something to me. I'm really happy, even though just like, even if it's 2 or 10 or 15 or 50 or 100 views or 1,000 views, it's, in my opinion, right, just that one person is watching is like, that's cool, that's awesome. I'm actually spreading it to somebody else, and that more than one person is watching it. That's, yeah, yet again amazing. But that was all from yesterday's video. Today, mates, that's not why you're here. Today, we're going to talk a bit about questions, as I was kind of teasing yesterday. Just gonna move myself around here yet again. Because questions are kind of hard. And why is questions hard? Well, because they're either too hard or they're too easy. Because I found myself, right, I was sitting in class, I was doing the usual thing. I was sitting there listening to the teacher. I was sitting in a room with about 400 other students. And the teacher was standing in the front saying like, blah 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 blah, what do you think about this? And it was such a, in that point in time, right, I don't quite remember the question exactly, but let's just say he was holding up this, right, whatever it's supposed to represent, and he said that, what color is this? And everybody in the room knows that this is, you know, black, the color black, am I right? If I'm not colorblind, then this is really purple or something. But yeah, the teacher said basically, what color is this? And when everybody knows in the room what the color is, and everybody says like, thinks rather, that's black. Why is he asking that? That's kind of weird, isn't it? Nobody answers. Maybe that was the point, to make a bit of a rhetorical question. They're like, what, you know, what color is this, am I right? It's obviously black. But the teacher actually seemed to want us to actually answer the question. So it ended up with him just picking someone in the row and saying, you, what color is this? And they were obviously saying, well, it's black. And when you get that sort of question, like, you answer it, you're directly thinking that, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if I think that this is so obvious, maybe it isn't. Maybe it's something completely different. But it was black that was the right answer, which kind of threw many people off because it was so easy. I think that everybody in the room realized that that was the color he was after. Now, we were discussing ethics, and it wasn't color that we were talking about. But basically, mates, he had gone through something on the PowerPoint, and literally when he changed the slides, he was asking what was on the previous PowerPoint. It was kind of such a question, and it was like the main point of the previous part. I think it was the answer was something like utilitarian or something like that. And it was really obvious that that was the answer, especially how he was phrasing the question. So when a question is too easy to answer, nobody will actually take the time to, well, answer the question, because everybody knows the answer. And I know that probably the people to the right, to the left, behind and in front of me will also know the answer. Therefore, I'm just gonna look like a complete fool if I raise my hand right, recognize it as a real question, and answer it. Because there might be the case, if he hadn't asked someone specifically, that the teacher actually was meaning it in a rhetorical way. Why is this a problem? Well, because if you try to solve this, so to say, by making it harder, you're also creating a problem, because when a question is too hard, people either do not know the answer, hence they cannot answer the question because they just don't know it yet. It's too hard, it's too complex, it has too many layers. People are just sitting there like, what are we talking about again? I don't quite understand. And that's never good either. And what happens if it's too hard and people think that they're having an answer in their mind, yeah? They're thinking like, it could be this. I'm completely within the realm of possibility to being right, but I still don't want to answer it because what if I'm wrong? Not only that I'm showing the teacher that I'm wrong, but I'm also influencing my networking skills in a negative way because I'm showing everybody else here that I'm actually wrong. Now, one can argue that if you're actually answering the question and somebody else is having the correct answer but choose not to answer the question, then they're the fool and you're the correct person. Am I right? Because they didn't answer it either. So how easy is it going to be for them to just come up to you afterwards and say, you answered it incorrectly? And you can just be like, well, you didn't answer it either. If you knew the answer, why didn't you answer? And they're gonna stay like, and they're gonna come up with some stupid answer like, I didn't want to, it was too easy or some shit like that. But it probably wasn't. So this is kind of a problem, being a teacher, being a lecturer overall, being someone who's just inclined and incorporated with a class of people, with people listening to you. If you're going to ask a question, sort of a control question, if you make it too easy, people are not going to answer it because, well, it's too easy and everybody knows the answer already. If you make it too hard, then it's not a control question anymore, if you want to see if people are still following what you're saying. However, if you want to create a sort of a discussion, this is where the problem comes in for real. You want to discuss you want to create the discussion, so you want to have a question that is not too easy, so that everybody knows the answer already, hence they don't want to answer. And you don't want to make it too hard, because then people won't indulge in the question, because they think, well, there's no point that I'm doing it, because it's too hard, I don't understand it, I don't know what to do. No, what you actually want is something in the middle, and believe me, that is easier said than done. I have like 10 different tips that we're going to go through over the course of the next coming days. I think, at least. Maybe it's just one video. We'll see. Maybe it's 2, maybe it's 3, maybe it's 10, one per, tips. But we're going to go through that over the upcoming days. But what you need to keep in mind and what you need to take away from this video is yet again that you need to have a question that's in the middle. Why? Well, because it needs to be easy enough for people in the room to actually understand it based on what we've gone through so far. It needs to be able to create the discussion without being discouraging, since it's too hard and since it's too complex. It needs to wake a discussion, so it needs to be interesting. And what is interesting? Interesting is not easy, because if it's easy, it's not interesting, hence people are not answering. If it's easy, people just think that it's a rhetorical question. People are like, is that really what you want me to answer? Because everybody knows that. Why did you even state that question? It's an assumption at this point, right? So you want to make something that's in the middle and creates an interest. Interest is like key when it comes to creating a question. Because if you're asking a question out, even if it's like middle hard, it's between really hard and it's between really simple. It's something that is tailored to the people in the room in terms of difficulty, but it's not waking an interest. You're not saying it in a creative manner. Then people are just gonna sit there and be like, I honestly couldn't be asked, right? And that's a bad mentality, and one can say that it's up to the audience to be engaged as well, because they need to sit there and listen. And if you don't have an engaged audience, then well, good luck to you who's the lecturer, am I right? Even though I would argue that it's about a 90 to 10 when you think about the percentage split of who's having the responsibility to make the audience engaged. I would say that it's 90% on the lecturer or the teacher or the person in the key presentation who's having the keynote, so let's say, and 10% on the audience, because the audience should just sit there and be captivated. That's the only thing they should do. I don't think that the audience should need to go in with the mindset that we're going to be captivated, because then, well, you kind of fooling yourself as an audience, I would argue. I know that you can drive that back and forth 100,000 times, so not gonna go into that, not gonna get into that, so to say. But what I am thinking about is, yet again, the point of this video. Too easy of a question, people will not answer it. Too hard of a question, people will not answer it. If you put it in between but not put it interestingly enough, people are not gonna answer it because they just can't be asked. But you need to put it in between and formulate it in a creative way. And we're going to go through 10 different things over the course of the next coming videos, as I've said, and these are Make sure that every question is necessary, because if it's not necessary, well, then why should people answer it in the first place? It's just a waste of time, am I right? Keep it short and simple, in a way that's in order to not show ambiguity and abstract concepts be getting out of hand in the first time of the course, I'd say, in the first courses, in the first lectures, I'd say. You don't want to start off with the abstract idea of, let's say that you're discussing the universe, and your first question is, what is the universe? What is the universe? Keep it short and simple. Say, what's a star? Or maybe even simpler, what is the cornerstone of a star in the sector 4.3? Maybe that's too hard because that's too specific. You need to find the balance there. Ask direct questions, so you don't want to, yet again, make it too ambiguous. Ask one question at a time, because if you start like Elsa lecture and saying, what is like a star? And then before people can think it through, you say, no, wait, well, what's the universe then? And what's that part of the star? And what's the sun? Is the sun really a star, or is it more of a perspective thing? You need to keep it cool, right? You need to keep it one question at a time so that people can actually work through, so your audience can process what you're actually asking. Avoid leading and biased questions. Well, why? This is more of a survey thing, I think. But when you're thinking about it, you don't want to influence the discussion from the beginning as a teacher, I would argue. I think it's better if it's as an objective point of view as you can make it, and then the people who is your audience will make the biased assumptions and will kind of lead the discussion in a certain way, and then it's your job as the question, as the person who's asked the question, to lead it back to be as objective as possible if you're kind of drifting away in one part and alienating a part of your audience. Speaking, we're gonna go through these fast. Speaker respondents language, you're adapting language to the audience. Use responses scale whenever possible. Avoid using grids and metrics for responses because that bores people. Rephrase yes or no questions if possible, so that you don't have an entire class just sitting and being like, yes, or you have an entire class sitting and being like, no. And you also get away from the problem when half of the class says yes, half of the class says no, and there's no in between. It's just black and white, and you're just like, we were going to discuss ethics, why are we just discussing the black and white perspective? That's not good. And the last one then is take your questions for a test drive if you can, mate. It's truly important. But that is what we're going to go through over the upcoming days. And I'm just going to end by saying this as well. Something of a good thing that the teacher took up that I thought, well, that's smart. It's something that I've always known, but I never put it into words before. If you ask a question, make sure that you have the entire audience with you. And some people, and most of you will be like, yeah, obviously, that's the point. You want to have the entire audience with you? Yes, but make sure that you just don't listen to the vocal minority, because it tends to be, right, that you think that the overall, what you would say, attitude of the group is one way, but when you give them the option to be anonymous in their answer, you will get a completely different acquisition of answers in comparison to when you've asked them as a group, because then the vocal minority will take over, and the majority that's kind of silent or doesn't feel engaged or just don't want to talk in front of other people will be left behind. So make sure that you have everybody with you. That was all from me, mates, for today. Hope that you had a nice one listening to this, to the introduction, so to say, what we're gonna do over the upcoming days. Sorry. Yeah, have a nice one, mates, and I hope that this is working now and that I don't have to lower the volume of the music. See you tomorrow.